Good afternoon. So looks like people are trickling in after a good lunch. So hopefully we'll keep this interesting and interactive. At least definitely want to have the audience ask the panel questions. I don't think the people here need introductions. They've been giving talks, multiple talks and multiple panels. But we'll do a quick round of intros. I'll kickstart it. I'm Rajiv. I've been a security researcher my whole life, founder of Securium, one of the organizers of DSS, and really trying to get the community rolling. And this is a topic that's really close to my heart because I've been doing security for a long time. So what we could have renamed this panel multiple ways, but what we really want to talk about is what are we doing with Web3 security, right? Are we really trying to reinvent the wheel? Or as Andrew said it, we shouldn't be speed running all the things that went wrong with Web2 in the Web3 space. So that's really the goal for this. Let's look at sort of all the historical things, what went right, what went wrong, can we learn something, or should we really restart that? But before that, quick round of introductions by all the panelists here.
Okay, I'll start. I am Pablo Sabbatella, Pablito.eth. I'm a SEAL 911 contributor. I founded OPSEC, where we do operational security audits and trainings for Web3 companies. And I have the Blockchain Security Series podcast. And well, operational security is my stuff. I enjoy hacking people more than systems. That's my stuff.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I did the talk 2 sessions ago. I previously worked at BitMEX, my crypto experience, and then Robinhood, and then Uniswap, and now I'm at Privy doing better wallets. I like all factors of security, and mostly my goals are just not to be embarrassed a lot of the time, not to look really dumb in front of my other security friends. So that's my motivation for doing security.
Amazing. So I'm Anto. I work as a principal security engineer at Eigenlayer. Previously, in my Web2 job, I've done hardware security, mobile security, Android, that kind of thing. And I got into Coinbase, so that was my first crypto job. Did Base, and now Eigenlayer. So security has always been my thing. Love breaking things and trying to fix as much as I can.
Hey everyone, Mehdi, co-founder and director of Sigma Prime. We're a blockchain security and research firm doing a whole bunch of security stuff across the entire Web3 stack. We're also the founders and maintainers of Lighthouse, Ethereum consensus client, responsible for 1/3 of the Ethereum network today. My background is also in Web2 security. I've done a bunch of pen testing, web app security assessments, and so on, red team engineering, social engineering, and whatnot. So yeah, Web2 security is a concept that's also really, really close to my heart, and keen to dive into this.
Hey everyone, I'm Peter Kacherginsky. I'm at Coinbase Units or X team. I'm also the editor of the Blockchain Threat Intelligence newsletter. I had a lot of Web2 experience in the past, anywhere from malware reversing, exploit writing, red teaming, blue teaming, just kind of keep on hopping security jobs. So Web2 is fun, but Web3 is even more fun.
Fantastic. So, I mean, as you heard, right? So we've fantastic set of panelists who've been around way further back than Web3. So that's really the motivation for this panel. But before we kick things off, right, just some fun historical facts for those of us who are new to sort of Web3 security, or even for those who've been around for Web2. A lot of these things are not new, right? Fact 1, the first message that was sent on ARPANET, right, the predecessor of the internet, the first message that was sent from UCLA, the university in Los Angeles, to Stanford, SRI. Yeah, we see some hand pumping. So that crashed the machine on the other end, right? So there was actually a memory, it was a buffer overflow. It was a memory corruption. So they tried to remote log in, and the story is that, yeah, you can look up Wikipedia. They started typing LO, and before it got to G, the machine on the other end crashed. The bit rate they expected was way smaller. They had a 10 byte memory buffer allocated, but that didn't really fit, right? So the details you can look up. So this was ARPANET, right? I mean, this is, 1969, I think. Wow. But of course, security goes way before that, right? I mean, ciphers, cryptographic ciphers have existed since the Greek and Roman and Indian civilizations. And social engineering, I mean, Pablo talked about it. I mean, that's existed as long as humans evolved, right? So this is sort of not new, while it may seem like that. Specifically when it comes to security, right? Some of you may have heard of the Salzer and Schroeder principles. So this, look it up. So this was in the US, 1975, set of, I think, 10 principles, really captures things like least privilege, common mechanism, user experience, so separation of privileges. We talk about multi-sigs. A lot of that has been sort of talked about, captured, formalized in a different context, right? Obviously, they didn't have ledgers back then. Now, blockchains. The reason we talk about blockchains consensus security is the Byzantine fault tolerance, Byzantine generals problem, right, was formalized in the context of distributed systems in 1978. So things have existed in the blockchain space, in the Web2 space, in the Web1 space, so for a long time, right? But just want to sort of kick things off, sort of level set ourselves and the audience with how do you guys think about what is sort of Web3 security versus Web2 security? Do you sort of compartmentalize it, or is it one big thing? Anyone? Would like to hear all of you.
I can kick it
Yeah.
off. I guess I look at Web3 security as kind of like a subdomain of a larger security field. Like it's a domain-specific thing and domain-specific knowledge. We have very unique challenges, right? We have to think about everything is decentralized, wide open to everyone. You can't submit a secret to someone without everyone knowing about it. But it's almost like I think it's a misnomer to say that Web3 security is this special thing and it exists in isolation and we have to forget about everything else that exists. No, it's another domain. It's a lot of fun, but we also have to remember all the different lessons that we learned since, I guess, the 69, not to send messages that crash things. We still send messages that crash blockchains, and we have to learn from that as well.
Yeah, kudos to both of you in your talks for sharing with people that Web3 systems are typically deployed on Web2 systems, right? And I'm sick of seeing people get popped because of poor security hygiene that's got nothing to do with on-chain activity and Solidity and the EVM. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. People have come up with great set of standards that we should all be following. I walk around in the conference and I see a lot of people leaving their workstations, their laptops, unmonitored and unlocked in a security conference. Like that's.
Wait, I have a problem with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit me.
I'm a lot of controversial topics all the time, right?
Yeah.
How many attacks have ever happened from someone leaving their laptop unlocked?
Heaps.
I don't believe that there's any of the big attacks were left from someone's machine unlocked.
Well, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't prevent that from
No,
happening,
I agree,
right?
but I think that security people focus too much on that one.
No, that's one example of. So back to your original point of being aware of some of the limitations of our space. I think a lot of people think that we're amongst friends here.
You look at me when you
I
say
don't
that.
think so.
That's
I like you,
worrying.
Andrew. We're friends, but this is like.
Just don't leave the machines open, please.
Yeah, this is a prime conference for anyone wanting to potentially attack founders, right?
Yeah.
And backdoor laptops. Those laptops will potentially be deploying sensitive smart contracts, sensitive systems, and protocols in the future. So, yeah, so that's one example. One of my teammates said that he even found an unlocked phone in the bathroom today. So, yeah, I think we can do better. I'm not saying that like this will automatically lead to compromises of Web3 protocols, but the bar is so low at the moment that we should all be, working towards raising it. And yeah, it's a lot of people think that I've gotten 10 audits, I have a bug bounty program on Immunify, so my protocol is safe, but not really.
Yeah, I think we see a lot of smart contract attacks early on, and now we have gotten to the point where protocols are getting audits, and it's difficult to exploit. Maybe not difficult, but it's a higher bar to exploit protocols. So attackers would probably want to go for the low-lying fruits, right? So Web2, like if you do not have your Web2 security down, you do not have to be exploited on the smart contracts. You could be exploited in the UI. So the recent attack, people saw something in the UI and they signed that, but they never verified it on their ledger devices. That is a very Web2 attack. It has been going on, like remote code executions. So we are seeing more Web2 attacks than Web3 attacks because hopefully we got our Solidity smart contract security right. Now attackers will go on to the next thing, which is Web2. So
I think we've also seen that in Web2. So previously there were like loads of server-side attacks. Like people would attack IS5 for days and days because you could just get it to drop shells all the time. And now that that security has improved, like people have moved like further up the stack or closer to real people. But I don't really differentiate between the two. Like I don't really have a differentiate between Web2 and Web3 security. Like it's all security. It's slightly different. There are some differences in how it's used, but the same would be like if someone was using a completely esoteric language, or there was some other way that we deploy things. I think that the nice thing with Web3 coming in is that we finally have a chance to change some of the Web2 things. So if you look at Web2 companies, like everyone is very stuck in how we do security. Like there is basically a hard and fast rule, but coming into our space, like we have a chance to make a difference. So like if you wanted to be like, I'm gonna flash the machines every single day before you get to work, there is no Web2 company that is gonna go for that. But I think that you have an option with people in the space being like, like more fresh and dynamic, like they're okay with trying new things. And that's really why I like it. I think that especially if you work in AppSec, like you have a chance to make a significant difference in what we do and like have a cool way to do it.
Yeah. I think that, well, as you have already said, there's no Web3 without Web2, and I think that we shouldn't make too much of a difference. But I think that the key thing with Web3 is that it's much profitable and cheaper for threat actors than going and, I don't know, stealing credit cards database and then doing stuff with the credit cards. So I think it's a matter of incentives, first of all. And then I think that a very big issue that we have is that, I don't know, banking industry has regulations and they tell them you have to do this, and that, and they do it. And in the crypto industry, there's no regulation. Everybody does whatever they think that they should be doing. But we have no processes, no standards, no nothing. There are some things that are being created around that now, and I think that's pretty important. But anyways, we are realizing that that's important because funds are getting stolen like in the hundreds of millions. So when that happens, we say, okay, we have to make a change here. And another thing that I think that it's very important is that lots of Web2 attacks that are on DeFi protocols, for example, I don't know, taking over a domain or a Twitter account, affect users and not the protocol itself. And sometimes protocols then don't reimburse users or whatever. So some of them don't care too much about their users. I think that should change. And that's why they say, okay, no, our contracts are okay. If there's a phishing campaign, that's not that's not our responsibility, let's say. I think it is. But I think that it's mainly a thing of incentives. And due to that, we are paying more attention to that.
All great points. I mean, I didn't think we would disagree that Web3 or Web2 security is not important. It's a bit of an echo chamber, right? I mean, in this room and amongst ourselves. Yeah. So it's really to get the word out, right? So good. Glad we agree that this is critical. But we do see that. I mean, we do have Anto sort of representing the protocol side of things, right? And so maybe just a simple question. I mean, you did agree that Web2 security is critical as well, so that's good. But we do see that when we say Web3 security, I think my guess, we haven't done a poll, the first word that comes to people's heads is audit, right? And that is smart contract audit.
Yep.
Andrew talked about it. Peter talked about, I mean, all of you agree with that. So protocols don't have a budget, right, for whatever reasons, to get a Web2, to get an infra audit, or any of the other things. Why is that, and what needs to change to make that happen? I mean, protocols pay $1 million, I mean, depending on how big your TVL is, right? Couple of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands goes up. What do you think? Maybe Anto, you can sort of give the protocol perspective, and we can all chime in. What is that mindset, and what can we do to change that mindset? Oh, did I say Andrew? I mean,
Yeah. I can do this from time. So
we let Anto sort of
okay, go.
take the spotlight.
First victim.
Okay, yeah, so protocols do spend a lot of money on audits. We get like the audits from the top security firms, and we do not have unlimited budget, unfortunately, right? I would like to get audits from all the security vendors that I've met here. I think you're all amazing, but we have limited money to spend on these audits. So we have to, unfortunately, pick a criteria and go with who's the right audit firm for the specific audit that we are doing. So if we do anything with Beacon Chain, which we do, we would like someone who has experience with like a light client or like a consensus client, because they really do write that code, right? So we definitely pick our auditors based on what is it that is being audited. But security doesn't stop there. There is a lot more you can do. Like, we do get infra audits. We do get Web2 audits. I'm an AppSec guy who became a crypto guy, so I understand how important it is. But there are stacks that you do not control. Like, for example, you have a X account, right? Like a Twitter account, right? You can do everything right, but you do not control that platform. It's not a blockchain. You have a username and password in a database.
Yeah.
You probably know what can go wrong with something like that.
Right.
And that does go wrong a lot,
right,
especially in crypto, because the incentives are so high. But what can you do as a protocol to prevent that? Unfortunately, not a lot. You can follow all the best practices, and I'm sure like we all have contributed to all the best practices doc here. Right. But there is no guarantees that even if you follow all the best practices, you won't be popped.
I see Peter has.
I just wanted to point out, like, I'm sitting here and watching you talk about the audits and how we have to invest, hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars. Can we just recognize just how much time we spend as protocols thinking about security? What do you think is going on in the Web2 world? How much do you think a typical Web2 company spends on their security budget? And how much time do they think they worry about this cool mobile app they're about to dump on everyone that's going to collect everyone's credit card numbers and passwords and social security numbers? How much money do you think they spend on whatever security audits? I just want to point out just how far ahead we are, and just how much more paranoid we are as a Web3 industry, as a DeFi industry, just worrying about those things. That said, we have no choice but to worry about those things, because once the money's gone, it's gone. And one thought that I had is we still have to worry about audits. We still have to invest in that. And if you saw my talk, I'm all about like, oh, you have to build your security programs. Just teach your entire team to be a security team. Every single member of your team has some kind of security role. Like, I don't care if you're a marketing person. Well, now you're responsible for social media security, and you're supposed to hunt down the phishing scams. If you're a dev, obviously worry about smart contract code. But if you're an infra person, freak out about your cloud infrastructure. So dividing up responsibilities may be able to alleviate like some of the fear and just all the load that we have as a DeFi industry, and a typical DeFi project which has like 5 people on it.
Great points. So I'm sure we can talk about so many topics that you guys have talked about, right? Private key management, all the things from the Web2 space and the Web3 space, right? But just sort of to start dialing up the heat a bit, right?
Here we go.
So, anyone, should we move slow, break nothing? Or should we move fast, break something? Or in other words, should we treat Web3 security like hardware security? I know there's a school of thought here that believes that. We had talks from Aave as well on that. Or should it really be along the lines of Web2 software security, right? Where move fast or you break, update, upgrade, life goes on.
Okay.
Who wants to take that?
Maybe
There are a whole bunch of
Yeah. So there is the need for security versus the need for product market fit, right? Right. Like we can move really slow, but your competitor might just go all out, and there is always that first mover advantage, which is a very real thing, and so you cannot just sit back till. Even if you look at hardware security, sure, they go slow, and they still have bugs. Yeah. Like how many microcode updates have you applied to your Intel processor? Very slow process, right? Even Apple M1 chips, they have bugs that can never be fixed. So moving slow doesn't mean you don't have bugs. You still have bugs. I think you should design your protocol to localize your failures. So the whole thing doesn't blow up, but like localized failures. So you can move fast, still have localized failures, which is, I believe, more of a practical approach than, of course, you should do your audits and all that. Don't be irresponsible with that. But you have to also understand that you have to ship. Yeah.
Cool.
Can I ask a question just following this?
Please.
How about capping deployments? That's something that I've seen some of our clients do when they don't have the time to perform all the due diligence that they want to perform before going live. They could potentially cap user deposits at, like, let's just say a few $100s worth of
Exactly,
assets.
yeah.
Would that be a good strategy in your opinion?
Yeah, localized failures, right? That is exactly like capping deployments.
Guarded launch, few tokens, have a certain TPR.
Exactly.
Incremental stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's like when we're talking about like fast or slow, a lot of people see like security as a blocker for deploying things. And I think that as like security practitioners, everyone needs to realize like, one, you will never be a good engineer. Like I can make any engineer a good security person, but going the other way is very difficult. And then also, you know, normal devs are paid on like the features that they release, things that they get. They're not paid on how secure their code is or how well they did in an audit. So every time that you stop them and be like, hey, you need to do all these things and make it slower, like you're literally taking from them. So you need to have a lot of empathy, I think, to be like, okay, we can find like a middle ground. I think that like empowering the development team, you know, is a good idea. And the base metric is like people will reach out to security. I think that's how you know like your security is making a difference.
Cool. All right. So I have a few of these. Yeah.
Can I have just one more thing. You can also do other things, right? Like you can still move fast as long as you think of like compensating controls. So for example, you deploy your contract really, really fast and you're scared that you may get hacked. But if you build some kind of functionality that can allow you to respond to incidents either automatically or at least fast enough, you can kind of mitigate or control how many funds you're going to lose in case of a hack. So if you have a system that can just pause the protocol right away, just the second you see the funds started moving or one of your vaults is getting compromised, you can kind of speed up the process maybe a little bit. If you have like a faster incident response program built in, you can kind of speed things up a little bit. So it's a game, it's a balancing game that you're always playing. Like how much do I invest before the deploy versus like how many controls I can build after deploy. And that can allow you to maybe take slightly more risk than you normally would.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so that's a great segue to the next question, right?
I want to come back to, because I forgot to add something to your question before regarding budgets. And what I have found, because I offer these operational security trainings and audits, is that it's not a matter of budget, but something that I see is, you know, this concept of security by obscurity. Many companies have a very shitty OPSEC, But even with that, they say, no, we don't want you to audit our computers or our phones. Or for example, devs hate to be told to have to install something in their computer, or to be told that you have to do this in this way, in this way. They don't want to be told. It's very difficult to convince them to do it. In the end, we can do it most of the time, but it's very difficult. And then the other thing of, no, I don't want you to know how we have our setup, right? And the reality is that you can get to know how they do it anyways without them telling you, but they have this idea that we have known for years that doesn't work, of security by obscurity. No, I won't tell you what software we use, which are our wallets, if I have Windows or Mac or Android or Ledger or Trezor, or how I have configured my Twitter, if I have a YubiKey or a Titan. And they think that doing that is far more secure. Like, no, we don't want you to know anything. If you audit us, you will know our setup and you will be able to hack us.
Right. So this is literally sort of speed running the Web2 thing, right? Oh, we don't want to reveal anything, right? You may attack us, the whole, yeah. So this is a great segue. So there's a lot of attack surface to cover, right? I mean, Web2, Web3, add them up, Web5, I don't know. But obviously, we are constrained, right? Time-bound, budget-bound, awareness-bound, all those things. So if you were to pick, I mean, the question is, what's the weakest link in Web3 security today? You think it's software? Sorry?
It's phishing.
Humans.
Phishing, okay.
Yeah.
So software, hardware, you're working with wallets, right? Or is it really people, wetware?
So I think that
Just maybe we
I
can
want
go
Pablo
around.
to answer that.
Huh? Yeah,
You literally had to talk about that.
yeah.
I think the number one is social engineering mixed with phishing and with malware. That's number one, I
Cool.
think.
So people.
Yeah, people.
Yeah, Andrew.
I mean, I definitely think it's people as well. I think that it's things like, people were like, we'll do phishing training, but the data says that phishing training doesn't work. Spend that money on buying YubiKeys, you solve this problem. Like, it is a solvable problem that we somehow have still, which is very frustrating.
Yeah, I love that because things like passkeys is actually better than phishing training.
Yep,
You know,
100%.
like a decent solution.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do that for wallets too. How many people understand what is a private key? It's a very niche thing to understand.
Or should they even need to understand?
Exactly.
It's
right?
even
Like-
in the name, private key.
Yeah.
Private. They should be private.
yeah.
Right?
But
Oh, yeah.
people write their passwords on a sticky note and they put it on their computer, right? So this is like difficult for them to write down the full private key. You know what I mean? They shouldn't be doing that. Like, we can name them whatever, but just having a user custody a private key, do that whole ledger thing, is probably not the way we'll get mass adoption. We probably need something familiar UX, like account abstraction, right? And then with things like passkeys, maybe the phishing will go away. Web2 has been trying to solve phishing forever. And ever since they invented browsers, we've been trying to solve it. And it's been like, 30 years or something now?
Yeah. It just seems like it's much worse in Web3 somehow.
Yeah, because there is money involved, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree. I think humans are always going to be the weakest link of the chain, as Pablo pointed out. But I also strongly agree with Andrew. I think it also highlights failures of the security industry. I think we should all thrive and aim to provide tools that are inherently safe for users to actually interact with. And we've done the shittiest job at that, I think, as an industry over the past 10 years that we've been doing this stuff. Yeah, your talk, Andrew, is just, I was just watching you and be like, amen, please, everyone, hear this. Yeah, but I think humans are always going to be the weakest link. I like a quote from Morelian from Optimism, who said, you should design your processes so that even if you hired 49% of DPKR agents, you're still, resilient to actual attacks. Because, I don't know if you have plans to talk about this particular topic, but it's certainly a thing, right? Like we're all being actively targeted by that particular threat agent, and yeah, you will most likely hire one of them. Within the long run, you'll fall for that. So it's about tweaking your processes so that even if you do hire some of those malicious actors, you're not effectively going to get popped to the extent where your users are going to lose their life savings.
So we need an honest majority, right? BFT at the dev level really is
I
what
guess. Yeah, it's a complicated topic, but I think optimism for once, like they've set up some set of guidelines that are perhaps worth sharing and following.
And one thing to add with that is that apart from saying, okay, I have a North Korean guy working at my company, I don't know it, I think that we should always know, even with companies that have more than 30 people, that any normal dev can, I am convinced of that, many people don't, any day can turn evil, as Peter was saying in his talk the other day. We say, no, but we know these guys, we screen and we talked with them. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
People are people.
And that can happen.
Totally.
Yeah.
So
It's the same as people who have an issue with, like, they're like, oh, SIM swapping. The people who are doing the SIM swapping are terrible. So that person earns zero money compared to you, and someone was like, here's your entire year's salary. All you need to do is click a button. They're going to do it.
Yep.
Like, it would be insane for them not to make that choice. And I think that that's what you need a budget for. Like,
Spicy take.
Yeah.
wait, that was,
All right.
I have spicy takes. That wasn't it.
That's good. The food was spicy. I think the panel should be
Yeah,
spicy.
exactly.
It's not too spicy. We all know. The human factor is always there.
Yeah.
So we're running out of time, but I think we have talked about the past and sort of touched the present. We can go on, but want to sort of talk about the future as well, right? So if I can request you guys to bring out sort of your crystal balls and look into at least next year. Peter does the state of DeFi every year. So how do you guys think Web3 security will be when we, let's say, reconvene for DSS 2025? Will we still have the same, 6 guys talking about the same things from 20 years ago, people, software, hardware, or is it a sort of a more optimistic future? I mean, 1 year is a long time in the crypto industry, right?
I think the future is optimistic. We'll still be talking about,
Oh, really?
I hope we're still talking about
not.
the human factor is always going to be there. We'll still be talking about this. But there's so much interesting tech that is coming out, which is unique to our industry, where we can do so many more things that we just cannot do in Web2. For example, I'm watching, every time there's a hack, I immediately see MEV bots just swarm the attacker. The attacker drained 1 volt, and then you have these automated MEV bots, basically like draining everything, and then saying, like, it's all happening on chain. They're saying, oops, sorry, we hacked your project by accident. Here's your money back. I imagine 5, I don't know how many years from now, probably a lot sooner, we're going to have a degree of incident response automation, which is simply not possible in the Web2 world, because everything exposed, everyone can see all the transactions, mempools. I'm not sure where you're going to stick that automation. It could be just in public or private mempools, sequencers, bridges, whatever. There's such an amazing opportunity to build something that will hack back the attackers even before they have a chance to execute their attack. I'm actually seeing those bots come in and steal the money from the attackers before they even have a chance to do what they need to do. And that happens on more than one occasions. So that's showing me the future that we can do even better than Web2 world. On the user side, there are also opportunities. Look, we have wallets where we did not have any user protections just a year ago. We did not have any monitoring just a couple years ago. Look how far we moved forward as the industry. So it's hard not to be optimistic when you see transaction simulations coming in. We're still lost $460 million or something like that. So those transaction simulations, obviously not simulating everything they should be, but this is year 1. So I hope that in 5 years we get smarter. Our approaches to user security will also get just as good. So we'll be able to catch more stuff. So things are dark, but they got a lot brighter this year. And I think as we go year after year, we'll focus on maybe problems we can't even anticipate today.
I think, as I always say, that it's a matter of incentives. And there are 2 things that we are doing very good that are changing the incentives for third actors. First thing is creating standards and procedures. For example, the frameworks that is created by Mata, like having a guide on these are the things that you have to do. Well, Mata and a couple more from SEAL. And so no, yeah, it's there, and if you want to do it, it's there, and we know it works. So that's for a thing. So we will make it more expensive for a third actor to attack someone. And the other thing that I think it's very important is that now third actors are being followed, right? We have the people like Taylor Monahan or SackXPT or many that are following the money, freezing the money, making it more difficult for them. So I think that will help a lot. Those both things will make it far less profitable, and that will help.
Yeah. One thing I also see is sequencer level commitments. So if you're an app like Uniswap, right, you have an invariant. You do a lot of invariant testing before you deploy. But maybe you haven't thought of like a specific edge case, right? So what if you can enforce invariance at the sequencer level, right? So in Web2, we have firewalls. Why can't we have like Web3 firewalls, which aren't like censoring, but enforce these commitments? And we can have decentralized sequencing, and this would give us even better guarantees in production. And if we are to like get all the consumers on board, I think we need that level of assurance. And I think we'll see a lot of that, at least on L2s and L3s. L1 is tough, but it can be done. Yeah.
I think we're running out of time, so.
Okay, I think it'll be just as bad next year.
All right.
I think that there's going to be like a lot more abstraction in terms of like users accounts, in terms of the change, like everyone, well, a lot of the L2s are using the op stack, and I think that as we abstract further, like the lower levels can focus more on security, and hopefully it will bridge up. But I don't think in 1 year we will have any difference to what we have today.
All right, we're going to have the same panel next year then. Cool. So I think we're out of time. I don't know if you have time for maybe one quick question, but all the panelists are going to be around for the rest of the day, hopefully. We have a question from Mata. Oh.
Thanks. So the Microsoft ESEA framework was deprecated in December 22, but it left in place a lot of really good guidance around guardrails for hierarchical administration of systems. Have you seen similar guardrails put in place for human and non-human identities between like identity providers and security systems in the tier 0 space flowing downwards? Don't all answer at once.
I haven't yet.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying no.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Everyone is very focused on their code audits and smart contract audits. Like this stuff is way beyond. We should be thinking about that. Like we should get there, but maybe we should distribute that the Microsoft article and report to everyone.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I think that's all the time we have. So.